Hey guys, this is Harsh, your host for today. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Chandresh Narayanan. Mr. Chandresh is a sports author and a commentator. And today we are going to talk about 75 years of India in sports. Let's welcome him today. Hello, sir. So, a warm welcome to you, sir. I was really excited to host this episode because I wanted to know what 75 years of Indian sport has been. So, putting it in a nutshell, how can you tell 75 years of Indian sports?
Harsh, thanks a lot for having me on this podcast. Really excited to talk to you, first of all. 75 years of Indian sport, if you go to see, it's about a lot of near misses and a lot of what ifs, which form part of the 75 years of Indian sport. And not just Indian sport, but India as a nation. And I think that if you see as a whole, Indian sport runs parallel to the way Indian nation has evolved over the years. I think that's a good way to put it, because if you see, 50s required different kinds of heroes. 60s was a different era where India was going through a tough time as a nation with two wars and multiple issues with the country. 70s was an era where there was a lot of unemployment, emergency, the Bangladesh war, and so on and so forth, and the country was really struggling as a whole. And it required new heroes in cricket and hockey. And then as we moved into the 80s and 90s, we got newer heroes. And I think especially the 90s was the big change, because as the Indian economy opened up, more and more we got exposed to the world, and we got newer superstars to look up to, newer superstars who I would say made us believe in ourselves. And I think that whether it was Sachin Tendulkar, Leander Paes, or Vishwanathan Anand, I think these three really summed up the new resurgent India. And after that, say since the 2000s, we've really taken off as a country. And I think that the fact that we have sporting heroes of various kinds, whether it is Neeraj Chopra, PV Sindhu, Mary Kom, Virat Kohli, Sunil Chhetri, I think that we've done really well, but for the kind of population we have, we should be doing a lot better.
Okay. So, India being a cricket crazy nation since a long time now, we haven't dominated in a sport as such. It was hockey for sure, but that was before the 1980s, if I'm not wrong. So, where are we lacking? And what can be done here?
See, there are two Team Indias. There's a Team India on the field, and there's a Team India off the field. And I think that where we lack is that the Team India off the field is not as professional as the Team India on the field. What do you mean by that? I mean that the Team India off the field is run on an amateur, honorary basis. What that does is that there is no accountability, there is no responsibility fixed, there is no professionalism in the way the sport is run. Sport worldwide is run on a professional basis by professionals. By professional, I don't mean former players, former athletes. What I mean is domain experts. Experts who know what they are about, what the topic is. So if there's a marketing person who is a marketing expert, he or she is running that aspect of that particular board. And I think that that's what is required. I think that the day the Team India off the field becomes as good, if not better, than the Team India on the field, we have that kind of population, and now we are the most populous country in the world. We can never be defeated in any sport, across genders, across age groups. Till that doesn't happen, we'll always be also rans in the world of sport.
Do you think that the sudden change in hockey, that it was shifted to AstroTurf from field hockey, if that change would have not come, India would have still dominated world hockey like it used to do back in the 50s, 60s, 70s?
They would definitely have, but also what has happened is that when we were dominating hockey, the others started looking at what we are doing and then started copying us. So they got Indian coaches to Australia to try and learn what India is doing better, and then AstroTurf coming in. Like I said, if we had a proper setup, so the administrative setup for the sports, and by administrative setup, I've always felt that it has to be professionally run. It can't be run on an ad hoc amateur basis. It's no longer amateur sport. It's no longer a sport of any sport I'm talking about is no longer played by amateurs. Till that doesn't happen, you will not be able to evolve. And I think if we had a proper administrative setup, we would have anticipated, or if and when the change happened, we would have understood that, listen, the world is moving from the regular turf to the astroturf. Let's try and adapt ourselves to that. Let's try and get the next generation adapted to that kind of a turf. We didn't do that because sport has always meant in India that I have always felt this, and I have noticed this a lot, that making money from sport is considered to be a crime in India. And that has always held India back. And we never had the vision of the field to think about what might happen in the future. And that will only come from like a vision statement, like a mission that you want to accomplish. That did not happen ever. And I think that's where India has lacked as a sporting nation, in my view. And especially in hockey, a sport that we used to dominate. You know, the interesting bit is that I can draw a parallel between what happened with India in hockey with what happened with West Indies in cricket. When West Indies was at the top, they also didn't show any foresight in how can we ensure that we dominate for the next 50 years or the next 100 years. And I think that's where West Indies also lost out, India also lost out. And I think what happens is that India and West Indies, we were happy being where we were. We were not ruthless like what Australia is when it comes to, say, cricket, for example. You can never discount them in any era. Players might change, but they have a system in place. The system is strong. Individuals are not important. In India, because of the kind of system we have, individuals become important. Not just on the field, but off the field as well. I think that's where we're losing out.
Definitely. I think the Australia in the 2000s, which I have seen as a kid, and the West Indies in the 70s and the 80s, what my dad tells me about. I think they were ruthless on the field because the bouncers they used to bowl, the Australian team dominating in the whole 2000s, winning 3 World Cups back to back. I think that was something.
And sorry to cut you in, not just in one format, in both one-dayers and test cricket. That's the important thing. What happens sometimes in the subcontinent especially is that we tend to believe that once we have won the World Cup in one format, we are world champions across formats. That's not the case.
Yeah.
When we won the World Cup in 2011, we became very comfortable as a cricketing nation. We got into a comfort zone. Even our superstars, who I would not like to name, became very comfortable and were in the comfort zone thinking that we are now world champion. Who's going to stop us? But the fact is, you were world champion in one format. You had still not won a test series in Australia. You have still not won a test series in South Africa. In England, you have not won a test series since 2007. These are all stark facts. And this is something that is lost out on us because we tend to believe that if we are world champion in one format, we are world champion across. That's not the way the Aussies look at it. When the Aussies win a format, a World Cup in a format, they are world champion in that format. And they're very aware of how to compartmentalize. Even the English are like that. They also know how to compartmentalize. That's because of the professional setup that they have. Unfortunately, till date, even cricket is not professionally run. We may make 50,000 crores from sale of media rights and so on and so forth, but it is still not professionally run. So till that happens, till the Team India off the field doesn't tone itself up, in all sports, we'll struggle.
Like I remember a statement from Andrew Simons. He told that on field, I'm a soldier. I'm not like someone, a player who's going to be, good to you and all. I follow orders. So that ruthlessness, I think somewhere lacks in Indian teams. Like we go a bit easy on the opponents sometimes.
I don't think we go easy on the opponents. I think what happens is that as a nation or as a society, and this is something that I feel has come from our socialist background. I know it's an alien concept now, socialism, but before 1991, we were a socialist country.
Yeah.
And we felt that it is always about safety first. And it reflected in the way India played sport. The prime example of that was Sunil Gavaskar. It reflected on first secure ourselves. Even now, we won't take a step forward without securing ourselves. We won't quit a job and say we are starting a setup. We're going to come up with a startup. But till we don't have something secure, so
Capital, everything.
yeah, everything, yeah. So I think we are that kind of a nation, and I think that I think that's because of the fact that we have had a socialist background, and that kind of reflects in the way we play, not just cricket but all kinds of sport. Also, what has happened, and I am very sorry to say this, but what has happened is that as a country we've been, or as a society, we've been taught to be selfish. Secure yourselves and then ensure that you are doing well. I don't care what the others are doing. So we are never able to think about playing in a team atmosphere, thinking as a team, doing well as a team, because our parents have inculcated that in us, that you come first, we don't care about the others. So I think that kind of an attitude also comes here. If you see the movie Chak De, for example.
Yeah.
And by the way, I am in that movie by default because they've used my articles with my name and they just changed the headline. So I must put it on record that I am a movie star, just in case you're wondering who I am and why I am speaking over here. So
I feel more lucky now.
so Shah Rukh Khan, he owes one of the big movies in his career to me, because they used my articles and you can see my name in bold. It's there. So I'm a movie star. So Harsh is actually talking to a movie star here.
Yeah, actually.
So what I wanted to say was that the whole concept of playing for self. If you see the movie Chak De, you will see that the Australian team is planning, and they say that they won't pass to each other, and that was the issue with Indian hockey team for a very long time.
Oh.
Players used to be hogging the ball for a very long time, not passing the ball around, because they wanted to be the hero,
The goal scorer.
the goal scorer.
Yep.
So you wanted to ensure that you are doing well. To hell with the team. I think till that concept exists, till our parents and the society don't realize that you can only achieve this much as an individual, but if you want to achieve a lot more, you need teamwork. You need a team. It takes a village to create a revolution. I think that's where we need to be as a nation.
Odisha government has signed a contract with Indian hockey. So do you think that is going to put a positive impact with the future of Indian hockey and in the coming years?
Absolutely. And I think that kudos to the Odisha government for going all out in promoting hockey as a sport, and not just with Indian hockey. I think world hockey is now surviving on that particular partnership. If you saw the recent World Cup where India missed out, I think that Odisha government support will go a long way, and Odisha has got a lot of natural talent as well, and I think they saw a natural fit in trying to support hockey as a sport, which is a great thing. And I think that you have hockey being supported by Odisha, there is archery from Jharkhand, wrestling from Haryana. So we've got pockets of influence of various sports, and I think that more of these states need to come forward in trying to support these kind of sports. It is, I think, foolhardy to expect the whole of India to buy into all kinds of sport. It's not ever going to happen. And even now, if you see, cricket is not like, there are pockets of India where cricket is not really the main sport. It is football in some cases. In some cases, some other cases, it is volleyball, for example. So I think that we need to accept that there might be pockets of influence, pockets of the country where different sports are very popular, and we need to try and cash in on that, in my view. But all this is nothing without a professional team India off the field. I will keep hanging on that point.
You mentioned Haryana. We have a lot of medalists from Haryana, be it Commonwealth, Asian Games, or the Olympics. So any particular reason why Haryana dominates in getting medals for India?
I don't think there is any particular reason. I think there's a culture, say akhada culture, where they do a lot of these wrestling and Kabaddi and so on and so forth. I think that akhada culture is now paying dividends, and they wrestle in mud. Kabaddi as well. There are lots of different akhadas where the players come from. So I think it's a culture that starts off at a very young age, And I think that is now finally paying dividends because they're getting more and more opportunities. But more needs to be done, and let's hope more is done by everybody involved.
Akhada, what you're talking about. If we talk about sports like Kho, Kabaddi, mitti ke sports, which we call it in Hindi. So we have a rich history in it. Be it Kabaddi has been coming since the Mahabharata, as they mentioned. So can they be made a mainstream sports internationally?
It's already a mainstream sport thanks to the Kabaddi's involvement in the Asian Games, and also I think the Pro Kabaddi League has done a big help to Kabaddi as a sport because of the way the sport has been marketed and packaged as a television sport. You know, world over, if there's a contact sport, it does well. So, like we have the Kabaddi here, we have rugby, which is also a contact sport. Then you have the American version of the football or rugby that they have. That's also a contact sport.
NFL and everything.
NFL, yeah. And also then you have, say, sports like WWE, for example, again a contact sport. So I've always believed that a country always needs to try and utilize a contact sport of their own to try and rev it up further and package it and market it the best way possible. And I think India has done that with the Pro Kabaddi League. I think Pro Kabaddi League has done a huge thing for Kabaddi as a sport. And I think we need to try and ensure that we try and piggyback on that and try and get it more and more coverage around the world. I know that for a fact that PKL is also telecast in England, for example, on Sky Sports. So I think that helps a lot in trying to promote Kabaddi as a sport internationally as well. Whether it will be part of the Olympics or not, that's a long way off, but it's definitely part of the Asian Games, and I think that's a huge thing for the sport in itself.
PKL, I think, can be considered as a revolution because I never watched Kabaddi before that. It was launched in 2014, if I'm not wrong. So I never watched Kabaddi, nor did my dad or my mom. But when it started, everyone would come like, "Hey, Kabaddi laga, aaj Kabaddi dekhte." And I think we saw almost 2 to 3 seasons together. It had that, what we call an adrenaline rush in you. That, "Arey, pakadna yaar, kya kar raha hai?" And all those things started happening. So I think Kabaddi has somewhere come close to being a mainstream sport in India by now.
It's still not a mainstream sport. We know a few of the players like Narwal and so on and so forth.
Anup Kumar and all these.
Yeah, Anup Kumar. What really worked for PKL is the fact that it was packaged and presented as a television sport. I think that if you see IPL, for example, again packaged and presented as a television sport. Packaging is everything. If you package it well, you can actually sell a geyser to somebody in the Gulf, or sell a refrigerator to somebody who lives in the Antarctica
Scandinavia,
or Scandinavian countries or whatever in the winter. So I think these kind of things happen if you're packaging it well, and I think Kabaddi has done really well in that sense, especially the Kabaddi League, for example, and I think that's where it has worked for a vast majority of the audience.
We have produced a lot of champions, if I say. In cricket, we have a lot of them. Chess, we have. Badminton, we have done. So how can we produce more in different sports? Be it wrestling, be it other sports. Like we have one in football also. People might debate that, we have had great players, but not known. So how can we create more champions, if I say?
Where we lose out to the other countries is the fact that by the time our kids get into sport, they are about 7 or 8. In other countries, they start very early. Start at about 3 or 4. I think you miss out on those 4 years, and those 4 years are a huge gap, bring a huge gap when it comes to, developing a champion sports person. By the time you're 13 or 14, a Martina Hingis or a Monica Seles are already at the top of their game. In tennis, for example. And our kids are still finding their way playing a WTA tournament here and there, or an ITF tournament here and there. So you understand there is a huge gap that you've got to fill. And till that gap is not filled, you will continue to be also rans. And we need to start catching our sporting champions, like I said, from a very young age. What does that mean? That means that a sustained development program that is developed by all the sporting federations, which targets the kids from the age of 3, try and make it more accessible, try and ensure that there is a playground close by to a school, try and ensure that these federations then have their coaches in various pockets of the country. It's such a vast country that needs a lot of planning, that needs a lot of professional approach. And also what you need is a vision. And it's not up to the government. I think government should stay away from sports. I am a firm believer that governments have no role to play in sports. They need to be far away from sports, except providing any kind of regulatory permissions. Government have got to play zero role in sports. It can't be about governments. It has to be about professionals running the sport depending on their expertise. And I think that if we are able to achieve that, there'll be nothing that can stop us from doing that. In the States, for example, they have a strong school and college sporting structure. Where is that in India? We don't have a school and college sporting structure. A lot of players get lost out. And then what happens is that for a lot of the kids then become secure in the knowledge that if they do this much, they can get a certificate and get a job. You understand?
The quota system, something like that.
Not quota. I'm just saying that they ensure that they do well in this particular sport. This much is enough. They get a certificate, and on that basis, they get a government job.
Secure.
They're secure.
Yeah.
Why does that happen? Because they're not sure about the system. The system defeats the champions or the wannabe champions. The players don't defeat each other. The system defeats the wannabe champions. Till you don't create that system, you'll always struggle.
So, like continuing with that, the government now has bought a lot of policies. The budget is increased with Khelo India also coming in. So, are we in the right direction, you feel?
I think there's a lot of photo ops, and there's a lot of events. I don't necessarily think it is it's the panacea for all our ills as a sporting nation. I think what needs to be done is that you need to have a system, like I said, and the government needs to stay away. Any kind of government. You know, I may have praised Odisha for getting involved in hockey, but I feel that, you know, the problem, especially in the subcontinent, for example, is that the governments get too involved in the sport and it becomes more of photo ops rather than anything else. And the event becomes more important than the sport itself. I think that is what is holding us as a sporting nation, as holding back as a sporting nation. And I think that's what we need to be mindful of. It's not about whether when I'm giving a trophy, I'm getting a photo click with the winner. It's about like a proper system in place. What's the system to catch a hockey player at the age of 3? Or getting the kids to the sporting field. Does the Hockey India have a vision? Does AIFF have a vision? Does BCCI have a program? Does the Wrestling Federation, which is currently very badly placed because of all the allegations against their president, have a vision? Does the Boxing Federation have a vision? Does the Cycling Federation have a vision? Do they have a program? Does the Swimming Federation have a program or a vision? I don't see anything anywhere. So I think that that has sort of ensured that we are happy being also rans. That's my worry. We are happy being in the comfort zone. There is a lot of photo ops, there is a lot of events, but I don't think necessarily that is going to result in us being displacing China or US as a sporting superpower. I'm afraid to say so.
Like we can put it like a buffet system. First, you take the salads, you take the achars, you take the breads, you move on to the curries and everything, and that's how I think it should go. You nurture a kid from the age of 3. You take him at 7. You start developing his skills and everything, and by the age he reaches 20, he is a ready player, ready for the world, for the international stage.
What is happening now is happening by default. You're getting champions by default, not because of the system. It is despite the system. The player himself or herself is becoming a champion. The system has no role to play. And once he or she becomes a world champion, there's a lot of photo op. There's a lot of band baja after he or she wins a title or a medal.
Banners and everything.
Yeah, whatever, photo ops. Till you don't have system, and again I come back to the point, till you don't have professional running the sport, any sport, you will continue to wallow in the sea of mediocrity and will be happy being mediocre.
Sports industry has grown in India significantly, I would say, in the last decade or so. After the rise of IPL, ISL came in, PKL came in. Now I think we have a league for almost every sport. We had UTT, Ultimate Kho. We have a Prime Volleyball league now. So are we reaching there slowly, reaching in the right direction, making big leagues? Are we there?
Again, I said, there's a lot of events, there's a lot of photo op. They are at the top. If you look at the American system, from where we borrow all the concept of the leagues, the NBA doesn't exist in isolation. You have a strong college structure. What is the pipeline to the ultimate table tennis? What is the pipeline to the Kabaddi, the Akadas? What is the pipeline for the volleyball? It is all very well to have things at the top and very good. It opens up a lot of job opportunities, but we need to have like a proper, like a structure from down, from bottom to top. We are looking at top to bottom. That's the easier way. What's the plan to like grow it from the bottom? And I think that's where we need more work. We've done the top, but the base, the foundation is very important. And I think that's why we are lacking.
I think we also lack in sports education, I feel, because when I was in school, I would be one of those few guys who have good knowledge in sports and everything. Not only that, but nutrition. Sports nutrition is one of the most less talked topic, I feel, in India.
See, again, all this is part of the process. If you're catching a kid at the very young age to play sport, you'll be able to try and educate him or her about various kinds of things. What is happening now is that they are doing it on their own, they are learning on their own, everything is happening on their own. There's no focused approach. So everything, all this is part of that. So all this will fall into place. It's not about that we can't learn about these things. We can learn about these things, but there's no like focused, planned approach to try and see that these things are taught to the kids from a very young age. And by the time you start or someone else starts, your only focus is to try and get better yourself, to hell with the knowledge. So there's no real growth as such for an individual in sport then.
How far or how close do you think India is from hosting Olympic Games and FIFA World Cup? Because huge events, recognized all over the world, huge viewership. So I think it's a big opportunity for any country to host these events. How far or how close are we?
We are very far. We may fool ourselves by saying that the sporting industry has grown this much and that much. But the fact is, we don't have the infrastructure. And the infrastructure we have is mostly outdated or have become white elephant. And we are hosting the Olympic Congress this year, the International Olympic Committee Congress this year. So we are, like I said, we are good with a lot of photo ops. But in terms of hosting these kind of events, it requires fantastic world-class infrastructure. It requires fantastic world-class, infrastructure, not just in terms of for the sport, but in terms of the traffic on the road, the metros, because we are going to showcase the city and the country to the rest of the world. When Seoul hosted the 1988 Games, it developed the countries is to such an extent, South Korea to such an extent, the products that they brought out is still used by the rest of the world. The electronic products that they came up with. So whenever a country has hosted a major event, the country has fed off the success of that event. And also they have had the capacity to develop infrastructure accordingly. Unfortunately, what happened was that when we hosted the 2010 Commonwealth Games, we should have built on that. But again, the whole concept of this, we are obsessed with this, honorary system. Mm-hmm. Obsessed. We feel that if someone says that I don't make money from administering sports, he's a good guy, she's a good girl. That's not the case. And I think that you have not had any issues with any of the other Commonwealth Games. You've not had any other issue with any Asian Games, because everything is run by professionals. And I think that we are light years ahead, light years behind rather, in terms of everything, in terms of infrastructure, administration, in terms of the vision, the mission, the programs, nothing we have. Everything is happening by default only because of the population density that we have.
Do you think we can afford all these? Like, can we develop all these? Because when Brazil did it for the 2014 FIFA World Cup, the economy was on a decline for a long time. I mean, they built huge stadiums, hotels and everything, but they couldn't hold on to those things. Most of the stadiums now are not even functional. So can we afford those things as an economy, as a growing economy, if I say?
I think it's, like I said, till you don't have, what is your plan from 10 years from now, 20 years from now? All the sporting federations need to sit down individually and then as a collective and decide what is our plan 20 years from now. What are you going to do, say 2035, 12 years from now? What is your plan, say, for 2050? Is there a plan at all? I don't see a plan. It's a concept that we Indians try to imbibe in our everyday life. We try and save now so that by the time we are 85, we have enough money when we want to be able to walk as well. We do that. We do that very well with our personal lives. But when it comes to planning as a sporting body, we can't do that because we are only concerned about the next AGM to get elected as an office bearer. So that's where, the whole thing boils down to that one fact. Tomorrow, they might well announce that we are hosting the Olympics or the Football World Cup and I'll look like an idiot. But I'm just telling you that it'll again be just photo op.
I think we just hosted two FIFA under 17 and under 17 women's. So is FIFA seeing India as a potential candidate in future? In 10 years, maybe 10, 15 years?
It's too far off. It's too far off. If you ask me very honestly, we can kid ourselves into believing that these kind of age group tournaments are going to do the job. Too far off.
If only talking about football, ISL has brought something which we lacked as a football nation. Our ranking has improved recently. We are 101 in men's. So qualifying for the FIFA World Cup, maybe the next one, 26, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, no, I don't see that happening, frankly. I spoke to a few former India footballers and they exactly told me the same thing that I told you about kids not being picked at the right age. It needs a sustained plan. It needs a long-term vision, a program. We have a vision to qualify for the FIFA World Cup, say for 2046 or 2050 or whatever it is. You need to work towards a goal.
I'll be 50 by that happens.
You need to work towards a goal. I will be probably not be around. So you need to work towards a particular goal. I don't see a goal, a vision or a mission or a program which can help us lead us to that World Cup. It's not something that's impossible. If Japan can qualify, why can't India? That's because Japan's sporting culture is developed by a proper structure, a proper team off the field for all sports. Here you are happy being just an office bearer, just giving trophy and this, that. You don't need to, nobody's there to question you. What is the accountability? Next election, someone else will become an office bearer. You may not know the job, you may not know the role, you are just there for the power. So that you go as chef de mission with the Olympic contingent, or you go as part of for some conference. Everything is paid for, flights are paid for, daily allowance is massive. It will go on like this till we don't employ young professionals like you in various sporting federations. It will continue to wallow in mediocrity. We'll be very happy with that, and we'll be very happy with photo ops, unfortunately.
What if we try to put in more and more sports professionals?
That will never happen. That will never happen because of the fact that in India, the problem is that the more professionals come in and the more of these honorary people are booted out, their importance goes down, and more photo ops are missed out. It's all about photo ops from top to bottom, and the fact that I have the power. We heard about He-Man at one point of time.
Yeah.
Right now, that He-Man is in every sporting federation in India.
What about women? Because I remember I was doing a football event, I was managing there, and the match commissioner comes and says कि क्या लगता है अगले साल जाएंगे? मैं yeah, I think we can at least reach there. बोलता नहीं जाएंगे. So if these guys are not believing, as a population, as a regular citizen of the country, should we put in the belief that maybe there is a chance for at least women because they are at a better position?
No, they are not. They are fighting a lot more odds than the boys. And I think that what has happened now is that it has become even more difficult for the women because they are not fighting their opponent. Their opponent is the last rival that they have. They are fighting their family, they're fighting the society, they're fighting the system, and then the opponent comes into the play. So it is that much more difficult for a female in India.
So it's like they have 3 more hurdles than the boys?
Yeah, and the problem again boils down to the system. And what is the system? The system is just the same honorary structure that we have for sports. There is no plan. I keep repeating, there is no plan. There is no. If they have a plan, they will have to work towards it. Who wants to work towards it? Then you'll have to develop expertise for that. Who wants to develop expertise for that? I am happy with my photo op. I'm happy with my ticket to go to a FIFA World Cup final. I'm happy to get a ticket to go to an Olympic final day. That's it. Photo op is the most important thing.
How big do you think IPL is going to get? Because it's already huge. How big can it be?
I think it will become a 6 to 8 month league very soon. And international bilateral cricket will become lesser and lesser or even negligible. And we'll see weekend games. We'll see, I think, at least about 12 teams in the future or more than that maybe. But I'm worried about the supply chain of the players worldwide because it might well be that in the future the cricket as a sport becomes a one country sport. Already we are seeing only the subcontinental population playing cricket for various associate countries. So I think that more and more you will see that it will become like a one country sport, and IPL itself will become the most important tournament in the world. It's right now valued, I think, at about $11 billion, if I'm not mistaken. It could go up further, and it will be difficult to pack it in just 2 months. I think it's too much to pack in 2 months. It needs a bigger window. And I am looking at least about 6 to 8 months.
But do you think that's fair with the game?
I told you, the sport itself is dying its own natural death. Everybody was sleeping at the wheel when it was happening. Everybody is responsible for that. The sport was dying. Nobody was looking when they were driving. And as the car was going off the cliff, then they realized, oh, sport is dying. So it's too late now.
It will be more like football now. We have like players.
No, not even football. It could well turn out to be that Kolkata versus Mumbai final becomes the world championship. Just like in America, all the sports, they have world championship. Cricket's going to follow the same suit.
As cricket, we see a lot more international cricket. Franchisee cricket or club cricket is just a part of it. Football follows that system where players go out for a weekend or two to represent their country, and for the whole year they are in their clubs. So I think that should not be done, or is it
See, that's too idealistic a world you're living in. We're already there. We're already there. Very soon you will find that if you're in Mumbai, you go to Bandra to go to a coffee shop, you might well see, say, a Mitch Marsh sitting at the table next to you having a cup of coffee. He'll probably be staying somewhere close to that coffee shop in Bandra. Or he'll be flying in from Goa, where he's got a villa, and he's coming in just to play that weekend's game. That's going to happen very soon. So Mumbai, Bangalore, Goa could well become the hub for cricketers worldwide, just like say Madrid is or London is for footballers. So or Paris is for footballers. So I think, or Dubai is for some sports persons. So I think very soon that's going to happen.
What about Test cricket then?
What about it?
I think it is the original, or if the Gen Z we use the word OG, I think it's the OG. Then how it's going to run the Test cricket?
Why should it run?
It is the original form, I think.
See, the problem is that you can live in the past. You can be romantic about a particular format or a particular sport or a particular movement, but you have to be realistic. Till you are not realistic, you will always have these honorable concepts living in your mind, fantasy living in your mind about this kind of a sport and why it is so important. It doesn't matter to the wider audience. Who cares about a Cheteshwar Pujara today? For many, Cheteshwar Pujara is just a former India cricketer. He doesn't play in colored clothing, so he's a former India cricketer for a lot of them. So that's a fact. People are more worried about who will be India's number 4 in ODI cricket rather than who will be India's number 3 after Pujara in Test cricket. That tells you a lot. I think that tells you a lot.
If we keep everything aside, what about you? What do you think? You have seen more Test cricket than me. What do you think?
I've told you very honestly, it is not going to survive. It is not going to survive.
It's the harsh truth what we are living.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You see what has happened now because World Test Championship has come in, less and less Test cricket is being played. You're playing joke of a 2-test series. And it's not that the players have asked for that. The boards have said that we don't have time for Test cricket. It doesn't make money. Why will you play something that doesn't make money? You are not running a charity. You have to accept the reality. You can't live in the past and say that no, this is the ultimate form of the cricket. The people who are paying the money, for them it doesn't matter. They refer to dressing room as locker room, the people who pay the money. You can keep correcting them. It doesn't matter to them, Test cricket and all. They don't watch it. India won the Border Gavaskar trophy, just do a straw poll. How many people know about it? So I think that we can live in the past and think about things from a very glorious past kind of a thing. It's time to look ahead and be realistic about things.
I think it will be a black day because I have grown up watching a lot of Test cricket.
What black day? It's already here. It's already here, Harsh. It's the harsh truth. I'm just punning on your name. It's the harsh truth. Unfortunately, you're already there. Teams are playing lesser and lesser Test cricket. It's the reality.
I remember watching Border Gavaskar at 6:30 in the morning. My dad used to wake me up. Come on, let's watch New Zealand matches. The English matches would go on late at night in our standard time. I think all that is going to be vanishing.
It's already vanished.
It has already vanished, as you're saying.
Yeah, it's vanished. It's gone. It's finished.
I think that is hard to digest as a cricket fan because I've loved Test cricket. What do you think about ODI cricket? It's in the middle, hanging somewhere.
I think ODI cricket, there was a plan a few years ago to try and make it 40 overs cricket or 45 overs cricket. And they tried that concept in England. 45 they tried, I think. And 40 overs they tried in England. 45 overs they tried in South Africa. And I think that India opposed both the plans, as it happens. All new ideas are opposed by India in world cricket. And then they adapt to it or adopt it. And World Test Championship was also opposed by India. And then at that time, we had about 8 good test teams. And when finally it was introduced, we are down to 4.5, 5 test teams. We've already lost 3 test teams on the way. So I think that if the world of cricket has to really evolve, India has to think of itself when it is at the ICC as ICC. Because what is ICC? ICC is a member-driven sport.
Mhm.
The members form ICC. ICC doesn't exist as a concept where people are sitting on Mars. It's a member-driven sport. Members are ICC. India is also ICC. Pakistan is also ICC. Sri Lanka is also ICC, and so on. So till that concept doesn't get drilled into everybody, you're only thinking about yourself. You're only thinking about self rather than the collective. And that's where the sport of cricket has missed out on.
Do you think the 100 by English cricket, was it a tactical decision to somehow get more and more cricket to England and increase its popularity?
Yeah, they realized that they missed out on the 2020 bandwagon. But I think I read a report recently where they said that 100 suffered a major loss last year. And till you don't open up the 100 Big Bash League to private capital, you'll always struggle.
The drafting format as they have.
Drafting, not just the drafting format, I'm talking about the fact that the owners have to be privately brought in.
Yeah.
Till that doesn't happen, the board itself directly runs these teams in Big Bash and 100.
You don't have the auction thing. The auction
Auction
concept.
is like a supplementary thing. That's not that important. I'm talking about the ownership of the teams.
Okay.
The money comes in from the ownership of the teams.
From the business outside the world, outside the sporting world.
No. I'm saying that, say, Mumbai Indians is owned by Reliance.
Yeah, that's what.
So till that private capital doesn't come in, you'll always struggle.
Like steel companies investing in and all those things.
It doesn't necessarily have to be steel. It can be any company.
It can be anything. Steel was just an example.
Yeah. So anything. So Manchester United owns a team in the UAE League. They can very well own a team in the 100. But for that, the English board needs to invite and allow the private capital to come in. Till that happens, you will always find that they are struggling to make ends meet.
Coming to the fact that 75 years have passed in Indian sports, how can we look to the coming 75 years of Indian sports?
That's a very good question, Harsh. 75 years, coming 75 years, I hope that system changes in India. I hope that the administrative setup changes in India for all sports. And I hope we stop putting roadblocks in the progress of our players in all sports, in all age groups, across genders. Till that doesn't happen, we will continue to be also rans in the world of sport. That's the harsh reality, that we are happy being also rans as long as we are in the comfort zone. We need to get out of that comfort zone. We won't.
I think you and me won't see that.
I certainly won't.
Maybe I may not see it also because, I'm already 20, 75 years more. People don't live that much these days. One message you would like to give to the sports management professionals, what it would be?
I would give one advice to everybody is that learn, read, and try and imbibe what you can from everyone, from every walk of life, and try and learn about the sport that you're managing as much as you are doing with your other things in life. Try and learn about the sport that you're managing. I think that's the most important thing. You're doing operations, try and learn about the sport that you're managing in terms of operations, whether it is doing PR, media relations, or managing broadcast. Try and learn about the aspect of the sport that you're managing. If you do that, you will succeed in life.
Learning at every point, every
Absolutely. Everything possible.
That would be great. I think that was a lot we learned today. And if you guys have more such interesting topics in your mind, please do let us know in the comment section. It was great having you, sir. I definitely enjoyed it. I hope you did so. Thank you for coming.
Thanks a lot for having me, Harsh.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.